Hi, Angie here. I have been inspired yet again by the lovely Candy Soul and Soil. I have recently watched her top 10 curiosity decks, and it really, I don't know, it really inspired me, or not inspired, but it got my creative juices going again. I've been doing my little readings. I haven't been posting anything like on Instagram, just, keeping to myself. But then her videos always give me this like burst of, not burst, they rejuvenate my creativity, I guess, I think is what I'm trying to say. I obviously haven't talked for a while, especially to an audience, so I'm sorry that I sound so awkward. But anyway, that whole ramble was just to say thank you to Candy, Soul and Soil for inspiring that curiosity in me and that creativity in me to go ahead and make this video. And I've already planned a couple of other videos as well. I just have to wait until I have some filming space. The decks I will show you, I was literally standing between two tables. I was jammed between two tables with like this much space to work on. So my other videos I've planned, I'll fill them properly. But anyway, the 10 top curiosity decks I thought was right down my alley, fun and quirky. The way I decided to go about it was to pick a deck that represents a different energy than the other decks that I've chosen. So definitely I have more decks that are curious. If given the chance, I could definitely find a way to make them all fit this tag. But I decided to go in the direction of each deck that I will present has a unique and completely different energy than the deck before it. So they're not all going to be kind of creepy. They're not all going to be weird. They're not all going to have their own systems. So they just all have their own vibe that they're bringing, and I'll explain that when I'm showing the decks. I've also brought along two curious things. The first is my little Sandy figurine, Sandy from SpongeBob SquarePants. This was a gift for me, a going away gift, and it's just a little freaky but cute, so there she is. She's gonna feature in the video. And then on the other side, I've put my little concrete snake candle holder that I made last summer, but I'm gonna put a flower that I decapitated from the garden into it just for some aesthetics. I do love these flowers, and they are actually going out of season. Is that what you say with flowers? I don't know, but they're starting to go away. Like their blooming season is finishing, so I'm not like cutting their lives short by too much. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get into the first deck, the Goliath Tarot. It features a lot of animals, bones, curious creatures. Like they're animals, but they'll have more eyes, for example, so they're not quite real. I put it in the curiosity cabinet because it has that kind of feeling of something that has a strong spiritual energy. I would liken it to maybe an actual skull or bone that one might find in a curiosity cabinet. It just has a very strong vibration to it, this deck. And of course it does feature bones and skulls and all that great stuff also. So that's my first choice for this tag, the Goliath Tarot. Next we have one that's a little more colorful. I do need to get a new bag for this one, or at least prepare this bag, but it is the Sakki. I love this deck. It is very colorful, unlike the Goliath, but the art is just quirky. It's a little strange. There's a lot of people without heads, or heads without bodies, so that definitely puts it in the strange category. But what I really have begun to experience with this deck is that white and black kind of scratchy space that you see in the backgrounds or in a little portion of the card, that kind of like break in reality. So if reality exists in the cards, that like black and white noise in the background is breaking that reality. And I've been really exploring that kind of space where the noise is happening. Now, the creator does talk about this in her book. I don't remember exactly what she says about it. I've been exploring it in my own way. This was a deck created for the artist, so it's supposed to inspire, you know, the artist. And I used to use it in that way. I would pull color palettes from it. I think it's a great deck for that. But it really limited the use the deck got until I started exploring it in my own way. So yeah, it's strange because it has that, you can see that liminal space visually happening in the cards. So definitely a curiosity in that way. Next, we're going to look at the Touchstone Tarot by Cat Black. I would put this in my curiosity cabinet because this is the deck that would represent like an old portrait or some portraits of, you know, past family members or maybe just past people in general. Perhaps like an old photo that was left behind in a house. This deck is a curiosity for me as well because I expressed in another video how unhappy I was with the way it was made, like the production quality. The stamps show through the cards. I don't like all the border. They're too slippery and huge and sharp for me to handle. I was getting rid of them and then I didn't. Like it keeps pulling me back, these portraits, like these people looking at me. It kind of has a pull. So I wasn't able to part with it, even though I have very strong feelings about the actual workability and production of this deck. So that's just another reason that it's quite curious. I didn't mention this in the beginning of the video, but I don't have a cabinet of curiosities. So these are all hypotheticals. Like these are things that I would keep in my cabinet. Bones, strange things, portraits. Okay, moving on. Next we have the Trionfi della Luna by Patrick Valenza. And I grabbed the wrong edition here. This is the Illustrated Pips edition. I actually meant to grab my Pip edition, the one without illustrations on the minors, because that's the one I'm more attached to. Also, there's a lot of blood and eyes in them. But this is also just as strange. This is that kind of like Curious Creatures deck. You see these beings, they're not quite people, but they could be real. Like they're illustrated in an old kind of manuscript way. Like perhaps they were real ones. I don't know. I feel like this fits that kind of more gruesome vibe in the curiosity cabinet. And honestly, I think any of Patrick Valenza's decks would fit perfectly. He kind of illustrates in this kind of style that is a little darker and would really fit the bill for a curiosity cabinet. But this is the only deck of his that I have. This and my Pip version of the same deck. So there it is. To me, a curiosity cabinet would be incomplete without something animal in it, whether that's like a stuffed animal or like a rabbit foot or a leg of an animal, maybe some bones, although I guess that's more my Goliath deck for the bones, but something animal, right? So I decided to go with the Métamorphoses du jour tarot cards, produced by Tarocco Studio, but all the artwork is done by a French artist, Grandville. His art is very dry humor. All the animals in this deck are anthropomorphic. They definitely fit the bill also of being strange creatures, but you can also tell that they're definitely animals. It's like that curious thing in the cabinet that maybe you messed with a little, or you made your own little creation. Perhaps you made your own doll but stuck, I don't know, like a rabbit foot on it kind of deal. It's that kind of stitched together, almost Frankenstein-y item in the cabinet, but it's definitely also somehow related to the natural world. Like these are actual animals in our world. They've just been kind of manipulated to look strange and unreal, if that makes sense. There's another deck that uses Grandville's art by Baba Studios that I do also have. I love this kind of droll art style, to be honest. But I chose this one because the tones are more muted and it has a kind of like papery old look to it, which just gives it more of an antique feel. than Baba Studio's deck, which is a lot brighter and more colorful. Not that you can't have colorful things in your cabinet of curiosities, but I thought this one fit the bill just a little better. Next, we're gonna have a look at the Tabula Mundi Tarot by M.M.Meleen. Not everyone might agree with me on this one, but I feel like this deck does do its own thing. I know it's based off of the Thoth, and I can see the relations between the two decks. The way this one was structured is just so intricate. In every minor card, there's a link, a visual link to the associated major card, and I think it's just done so brilliantly. Again, just because it's very heavily based on the Thoth, I don't think that makes it a clone. I feel like this is its own entity, and I do think it does go its own way. It has so many associations with it, and you do kind of have to really study it. This would take the place of the kind of occult vibe, for me anyway. This little deck can live in my cabinet of curiosities. My hypothetical, imaginary cabinet of curiosities. The last tarot deck we're going to look at today is the Hayworth Tarot by Jessica Hayworth. It is based on the podcast Welcome to Night Vale. So it's its own world. It's the creator's interpretation of that world, but it's still its own world. It's definitely very strange. Logic doesn't quite work the same way in this world. It's based in America, but like a slightly altered version of America. If you start listening to it, like, things make sense until they don't make sense anymore. It's a really awesome podcast. It's an amazing world, and I really enjoy Jessica's interpretation of it. I think she does a good job of leaving enough out of these cards to leave some room for imagination, but also captures the kind of strangeness, uncanny is the word I was looking for. It's definitely in that uncanny valley territory. So that's why it's in my cabinet of curiosities. It's that thing that's just a little off. So I also have 2 oracle decks. I originally had 2 other tarot decks, but I don't know, I wanted to mix it up a bit and pick something else. So first I have the Botanical Inspirations Oracle. I chose these because of the art style. I think it looks very vintage, and also because flowers, or dried flowers, or maybe like flowers that have been book paged, like I like to stick them between pages to kind of flatten and dry them out. That's definitely something I would put in my cabinet of curiosities. I don't know about you, but I definitely would. There's also quotes or poetry that's written on these cards, so that could also be something that can be found in curiosity cabinet. You know, some old poetry or letters, you know, things with writing on them. Finally, we have the Supra Oracle by Uusi. It's produced by Uusi, but I don't actually know who the artist is. It's not on the box. I'll definitely look it up and I'll link it down below. Visually, again, it has that kind of vintage look. It's on that not quite white cardstock, like several other decks in this video. But I think the vibe it presents is very unique. It's definitely very heady, right in your mind, kind of almost psychological. I mean, it has a Psyche card, so this is that actual research book or paper. This is the actual experimental tools that might be in your cabinet. Maybe like an old medical scalpel or something like that. That's the kind of vibe I get from this deck. Hey guys, so as I uploaded the video, I realized I actually forgot one of my decks. So there's one more, and that is the Tarot and 9 Gods of Egypt card set, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now this would be kind of that vibe of nostalgia. It gives me like a nostalgic vibe. It's based on an old anime series. I'm sure it was a manga as well. So, you know, what Cabinet of Curiosities is complete without some old nostalgic toy or something like that, like an old spin top maybe that you had as a child, or that your mom maybe had as a child, that sort of thing. So that's the kind of vibe that this deck brings to the collection. Sorry, let me show some cards while I talk. So there's kind of 2 sections. There's the majors, and this is a majors only deck, which is my only majors only deck. Wow, okay, I butchered that, but anyway. This is the only deck that I have that's just majors. So that's another reason it will go into the Cabinet of Curiosities. But then it has 9 extra cards that are the Gods of Egypt, right? As the title states in or on the box, which is also, it has a really cool box. It's like this linen-y fabric feeling box with metallic inside. Okay, but I'm not here to show off the deck, I am here to talk about it. So yeah, it's a completely weird, bizarre kind of art style as well. It's not like the anime. The anime doesn't look like this, so it's just based off of the anime. I never even saw the manga, so maybe it looks closer to what is depicted in those. Another really cool thing about this deck, sorry, I'm really excited now, guys, is that Lazy Land, like the words Lazy Land, appear on each and every card, but you have to find them. The World card is the only card I haven't been able to find it on. So I don't know if it's actually not there or if I have not been able to see it. Sorry, Lucky Land, what am I saying? So here it is. For example, Lucky Land. That one's pretty obvious because it's on a sign. Here, it's all spelled out in the stars. So that's another fun little Easter egg in these cards. Like, these cards are just a curiosity. They go off their own way in so many ways. And they're colorful and weird and quirky, you know, Easter eggy, nostalgic, toy type of item. And I couldn't think of a better thing to put in a curiosity cabinet than this JoJo's Bizarre Adventures tarot deck. Oddly enough, the artist's name is also not written anywhere. So once again, I'll just credit them down below. But I did want to thank you all for joining me here today. If you're still here after my ramblings and such, I do appreciate you. Thanks again, guys, and take care.